Hello, dearest ones. We are so glad to be able to speak with you today. Have you noticed that time isn't acting the way it used to be? You should have all kinds of external confirmation that time isn't just second after second anymore. For years now, the channel Peter and his friend had noticed that sometimes they would leave and go to a destination, leaving their house late and yet arriving at their destination early. Time is a little squishy because as you move into higher dimensions and become your fifth dimensional self, it's no longer the 3D second following second following second. We used to call it space time. Now, many researchers and scholars are calling it time space that we are moving into. When you're in time space, you have the ability to take advantage of all of creation, of all of dimensionality, so that the experience you have becomes more than just what you had in your past. We'd like to explain a little bit of how you can take advantage of this to become more and more expansive, more and more connected to your source and to the divine essence that you are. One thing you may notice is that as you process through a feeling or emotion, particularly if that is related to another person, particularly if you have another person that triggers you into anger, and instead of blaming that person, you go within and see what it is in you that is reacting, attracting, and expressing. When you clear the energy within you, you may find all kinds of different responses from the person you were previously angry at. I know the channel Peter laughed so much when he first discovered that he could clear stuff within him, and then people would come up to him who previously had been an enemy, and they were quite friendly and loving. And when Peter broached the topic of what had transpired between them, they would have no memory of it. They changed because he processed it. Now, in the 3D world that we lived in, we explain this as, oh, it no longer affects us, so we no longer attracted that reaction from the person. But there's more there. In fact, what is there is that you're dealing with a different person because they're in a different timeline where they never did whatever it was that caused the interaction and the upset between you. Because when you cleared that energy from yourself, you shifted into the other timeline. And this is the key point we wish to make, that the timeline you're in is often held there through suppressed emotion. There's a magnetic energy, kind of a fixed energy, a boundary that takes place when an emotion gets stuck in you. And if you have that stuck emotion, you have that boundary, then you have these experiences because it is the framework for the timeline you are experiencing. In a normal 3D, you think, oh, we'll have to do this and change that, and that's all well and good, and it may or may not get you the results you desire. But when you start to understand you're a 5D being and you break away the framework, then you're open up to any possibility. A whole world of creation is available to you, or should we say worlds. Now, many of you may want to approach squishy timelines, as we call them. You may want to approach that with the same teachings you had in 3D, and that is to have a very clear intent of the outcome you'd like to have. This was very important for manifesting in 3D. However, intent doesn't work the same way in the higher dimensions. Yes, it becomes a point of focus. Yes, it becomes a point of attraction, but it doesn't manifest. When you're in the higher dimensions and you go in with an intent to manifest, what happens can be a backfire. because all within you that is not clear yet, all that within you that's still resonating with the old timeline and with the old framework you set, will just attract that strongly. And you'll have it seem like it's blowing up in your face. So the key word for moving into the higher dimensions is not to go in with the intent, but go in with allowance. If you allow, you will attract. So you have to have a general idea, of course, of what you want being better. But you have to, even more importantly, have a bigger faith that your sacred higher self, your unconscious, has the ability to scan the quantum universe, look through all the possible dimensions, and drop you into the timeline that is best suited for you. Because if you go in with intent, you're going in with only what you already know. And what you already know is limited. And of course, if you could be in those other timelines, you'd already be there, but you don't know how to yet. And you're in the timeline you're in and having the experience you're in. And if you go in with the intent, you're going to create more of that. So it's a trip into the unknown. And in the unknown, you have to kind of find what it is. The old, I know it when I see it, rather than just looking, I'm looking for this or looking for that. You go in allowing, saying, oh, there's better possibilities here. There's more love. There's more connection to my sacred self. There's more connection to oneness with everyone around me. And you go in with those kinds of ideas, and it starts to filter through you. And then the magnetic resonance of where you are, how much you've cleared, will kind of filter and shuffle, and you will have a connection to whatever level you're at. The expression the channel Peter likes to use is, you can only get off at whatever floor you've pushed the button for on the elevator. Well, whatever floor you're getting off on is a pretty good sign of where your consciousness is ready to be at. So you have to open up and allow yourself to experience more by accepting that I do not know what it is I will experience. I do know that I'm going to clear within me. And as I clear within me, then the squishy timelines start to just automatically become the timeline I prefer. The miracles happen. This whole channel was triggered by an incident that Peter had several days ago, where he was speaking to a dear friend. And the friend said, oh, I noticed a pain. And I automatically started doing a process. I would notice the size and shape of it and where it was in my body, and I would follow it. And then I would allow it and get bigger and bigger and ask it what it had to show me. And I went through many, many twists and turns, this person said, to clear out every little bit, to allow and experience, fully experience what was being held there. At the end of it, she said, she uncovered memories. She said, I'd never felt supported by my family before, yet when this was all said and done, I had this beautiful memory of them being at one of the events that I was at younger and all cheering and rooting for me, and I felt loved and supported. Now, we prompted the channel Peter to reply that not only was that a beautiful, great experience, but what if it wasn't a memory she uncovered? What if it was her breaking down the boundaries of where she had been and opening up to a new timeline where in her past that had happened? She said she got chills. She just was shaking with chills. It's, wow, because it resonated with her. But it also resonated with the channel Peter that, oh, this has been going to be how it works as we move forward into claiming our multidimensional selves. And that means that the us, the we that exists in these other timelines, and you could get into debate, does it really exist before you think about it or stuff? And that's all unimportant, but you can have it because it's mentally fun. What's important is to know that you can access any aspect of creation, and that becomes your timeline when you do the 2 steps that we are recommending. Step 1, clear blockages. Whatever it is that's holding you fixed and set energetically into this timeline. Peter has many things on his website. We've worked with him to produce many clearing processes. He is stepping into his own by offering those to people who would like to sign up for them. And he's even been brave enough to do this without charging and only asking for a donation if it's within your ability to give that. That is stepping into the unknown. We highly recommend you do whatever you can do to clear blockages within you. As you see the injustices in this world, your tendency in 3D will be to go fix them and do that. And we've done that plenty, and we see where that's gotten us and how far it's gotten us. And it's a good thing, but it doesn't necessarily clear it from you fully. You wouldn't be listening to this channel if you were cleared fully through that means of expression. So we are recommending very much that you go within you. Find what resistances come up. And that's what the beauty of the magnetic attraction of blockages. You'll just see it around you. It'll be in your face all the time. And just take time. Well, this is being reflected to me. Where does this affect me in my body? Oh, I have a pain here. I have a stiffness here. I have an ache there. Follow it, clear it. And then you get into the open space. So that's the very first thing we recommend. Is really take it upon yourself that if you want to do action, do the action internally, clearing, make that your process. The second thing that's very, very important then is allowance. We cannot stress this enough. If you're going to go into the unknown, it has to be truly going into the unknown. If you only want to take a little step because you're scared, you want to check it out because of this, that's the reality you will create because that's the energy you'll be attracting. So you must allow, which means you must have trust that your sacred higher self is guiding you. Your scientists are such jokers sometimes. They tell the funny story that you don't use 90% of your brain. They want you to believe that you're born with only 10% and it's defective. The other 90%. No. That 90% is unconscious. That unconscious is your greater self. It is doing all kinds of things. Importantly for this discussion, creating the timeline or fixing you within the timeline that you perceive as reality. So you're going to have to allow, which means you're going to have to trust. And that's the whole process of moving into the higher dimensions. Becoming your multidimensional self, ascending, is trusting. That means allowing. And that trust has to start with you going inside, because as you clear these blockages, you're going to get more and more contact with your sacred higher self. You're going to get more and more contact with divine entities around you. You're going to have to trust that you're on the frequency of the divine. If you're in fear, of course, then you'll be attracting the things to be fearful of, and it'll be self-fulfilling. You'll have that. And when you're done with the fear, you can say, oh, I guess I can work on clearing that now. Or you could just go mental and say, see, I learned this lesson. You go there and you get burned. And then that becomes your reality. And that's the timeline you're in. So you're going to have to trust yourself, which means just inviting yourself to be more and more. And that trust, of course, comes from clearing and loving what you clear. It is within you, all of it. And if you're horrified and grossed out by some action or some person on the outside, of course, that's a reflection. So there's within you that energetic. And as you choose to clear it, which means loving it for being. You can't slice the head off the dragon. It's a hydra. It'll grow 2 more. You can love the dragon and it'll roll over and put its belly up and dissolve. Because that dragon is the energy you've been carrying. And in essence, it is you. That's really kind of what oneness means. You embrace all of it and everyone. And you'll find as you explore your multidimensional self that you've been around long enough that at some time in this life or in another life, You've done those very things, and that's okay. And that's why you want to love them within you and clear them. Finish the experience and release them. Again, we say, avail yourself to the resources on the website that this channel has created for you. Many, many processes are there, many, many abilities to book a session to deal with things that you may not be clear about. This is the great work that we are all doing. This is how you are going to help uplift everyone around you by uplifting and clearing yourself. The beauty being that you get the joy and pleasure of that clearing as you uplift. So please consider the two things we suggest. Clear, clear, clear. Own it, feel it, love it. And then allow. Allow the greater goodness, the divine that you are, to express in your circumstance by moving you into a timeline that's even more loving and brilliant than you can possibly imagine. Many blessings to you.